Our story begins in 1103 BC. According to the historical triads Morgan and Waddell, Britain was founded by Brutus and the Trojans as a free and sovereign nation, in which all men and women were considered equal to the king. This ancient assertion was corroborated by Lord Chief Justice Coke in preface to Volume 3 of Reports, when he affirmed that the original laws of this land were composed of such elements as Brutus first selected from the ancient Greek and Trojan institutions. Under Trojan law, the king, known as the sovereign paramount, was responsible for the protection of the people, the punishment of criminals, and the settling of disputes. However, the sovereign paramount assumed the role of military dictator during times of national conflict or foreign invasion. When the Trojans arrived, the island was already partially inhabited by their kindred, the Cymri in the west, the Logrians in the east, and the Brythorns in the north, who were known as the Giants in traditional folklore. After being elected as their leader, Brutus named the island Britain, or Prydain in the common tongue, when it was divided into three sovereign domains: Cambria in the west, Logria in the east, and Alban in the north. The island had previously been known as Albion, during which time the Giants established the tin industry in Cornwall, which remained a sovereign and independent part of the new nation of Britain. The Trojans and their kindred not only spoke the same language, they also practiced the same nature of worshipping Druidic religion, out of which arose the courts of common law, which were also presided over by the Druids. Between 1075 and 400 BC, and by the time Brutus died in 1075 BC, Britain had already established itself as an advanced metalworking, stone-building, seafaring nation with a large population that was significantly bolstered by the migration of their kindred from the mainland of what later became known as Europe. However, despite the building of 60 universities, the expansion of the national roads network, and the nation becoming the primary exporter of tin to the civilized world, Britain was riven by internecine disputes and civil wars over whom would act as sovereign paramount for the better part of the next 7 centuries. The inevitable rise of tyrannous kings led to the succession of many clans, which formed their own petty kingdoms and made claims to the land and resources, which were in perpetual states of dispute between the warring kingdoms. That was until a petty king of Cornwall conquered his enemies to become the uncontested king of Britain, and established long-lasting peace by instituting a codified system of common law which united all the previously warring petty kingdoms under a system of equitable triads. In 400 BC, the system of common law was agreed in writing by King Devonwall Mulmud, or otherwise known as Donald the Bald, originally known as the Maulmartine Laws, which were applied across Britain for the next 2 millennia. These laws set in stone the power of the people to nullify miscarriages of justice, unjust laws, and tyrannical regimes by way of what became known as the Grand Jury 1500 years later, but was originally known as a convention. Britain's 60 universities, as well as the courts of justice, were presided over by Druids who extolled the virtue of vicarious atonement and the immortality of the soul centuries before the birth of Christianity. 55 to 54 BC, after centuries of peace and prosperity in Britain under Maulmartine laws, Julius Caesar tried and failed twice to invade what he and other contemporaries described as a highly civilized nation of people, where the nobility of Rome sent their children to be educated in the Druidic universities. Nevertheless, with almost the entire Roman army at his disposal, Caesar twice explained to the Senate that it was the fearlessness of the warlike Britons, as well as their indomitable charioteers, which set fear aflame within his legions, and inevitably resulted in 2 inglorious retreats from British shores. In 36 AD, the first apostolic Christian church was founded near where Glastonbury now stands, after the British Crown granted several hides of land to Joseph of Arimathea and the Apostles of Christ, as documented by the Domesday Book more than 1,000 years later. In 43 AD, Emperor Claudius led another attempt to conquer Britain, and for the purposes of which he hired the Angles, Saxons and Jutes as mercenaries. However, this was the pagan Roman emperor's attempt to crush Christianity at its source, which lasted more than 4 decades and resulted in Roman occupation of the south and east of the country, whilst the north and west of Britain largely remained under British control. In fact, no matter how many resources roamed through at the west and the north of Britain, where the Cambrians, the Silures, the Picts and the Strathclyde Britons had lived harmoniously under the common law since 400 BC, the lands and peoples could not be conquered by Rome. This stalemate led to numerous treaties which preserved the common law, with the agreement of the Roman Senate, in return for taxes upon the people, which were almost never paid. 86 AD, according to Morgan, the Romans were expelled from Britain, save for trading outposts and the odd strategic military base, within which the Druidic religion was seamlessly merging with Christianity, even though the former was still lawfully practiced as per the freedom of religion guaranteed by the common law. In 156 AD, Lucius, king of Britain, declared that the country was a Christian nation, despite maintaining the ancient freedom of religion within its many kingdoms as per the Mamertine laws, which were in accordance with all the central Christian precepts, most notably, treat others as you would have them treat you. 420 AD, near the end of the 4th century of British Apostolic Christianity, the Angles, Saxons and Jutes began to invade and settle in the south and east of Britain, bringing with them their pagan religion, patriarchal tyranny and lawlessness, which prevailed for the better part of the next 5 centuries. In 562 AD, during the reign of British King Arthur II, who subdued and conquered the foreign invaders, a comet struck and devastated Britain, which was uninhabitable for the next 15 years. In 577 AD, the Angles, Saxons and Jutes returned to Britain before the Britons, guaranteeing centuries of religious and civil wars. Nevertheless, British dominion over the north and west were quickly re-established along with the common law. In 580 AD, after invading the recovering lands in the north of Britain, the Scots of Ireland founded the Kingdom of Dalriada, which comprised of much of what is known as Argyll in Scotland and Antrim in Northern Ireland, causing centuries of wars with the surviving indigenous Picts and Strathclyde Britons. In 927 AD, England was founded by Athelstan under the British common law after Alfred the Great incorporated it into the Anglo-Saxon law around 886 AD, after being petitioned by his aldermen to do so. However, the new kingdom remained sovereign for only 139 years. Where things get interesting and possibly start to go wrong is during the reign of Harold Godwinson in 1066. 1066 is of course most notable for the Battle of Hastings, and we will look at the implications that that battle had for English law for the next millennia in the next video in the series. If you have enjoyed the content of this video, you may wish to consider subscribing to the channel. You can do this free of charge by clicking on subscribe, click the bell for notifications for when further videos are uploaded, and then click on the thumbs up to show you liked it. And most importantly, consider sharing it with some of your crazy friends. Thank you so much for watching.